Welcome back, my friends. This is Rebels United Chapter 5. You are never alone. In God's name we live, in God's name we serve, in God's name we shall perish and die. Today, with me, I have Arthur, my good old friend, and Bhavin, another of my good old friends. And today we're gonna talk about a lot of crazy stuff that has happened in past 2 weeks, and it's gonna be a phenomenal show. So let's get started. Um, we already know who Arthur is, and we already know who Bhavin is. So I will just start with my question for the day. COVID mandates could be coming back. A new vaccine has been released today itself, and tomorrow CDC will decide what will be the guidelines and who will be paying for it, because it could be taxpayers again paying for all these COVID vaccines. And before I let them address the issue, let me also mention something, that the number of deaths under COVID are far, far much less than the flu at the moment. So it is not deadly, it is not dangerous, but they are trying to declare another emergency. So let's start with Arthur. Arthur, you go ahead.
Oh, what do you mean? Go ahead. Are you
Sorry.
there?
Yes, we are here.
Can you
Did
hear me?
you? Yeah.
No, I didn't fully comprehend what you were saying. I heard the statement, but I didn't hear a question in there.
So the question is, what do you feel about the new COVID mandate, which might be coming in next month if we are lucky, and they are also gonna force for mask again. It's already in the news. What should be our take on that?
Well, me, I just go with the guidelines, bro. If they say COVID's out, I'm not going to be running around wearing a mask. Um, but if they say got to take certain precautions, I'll just take the precautions. Well, with the full awareness of what's going on, because you got to understand, right? Whether it's
Hmm.
COVID, whether it's the flu, whether it's a truck, everybody gonna catch something, and everybody here gonna die. When it's your time, it's your time. When it ain't your time, can nothing make it your time. So, but I follow the laws of the government that I'm under, because that's what I'm required to do by my belief system, and I'll take all the precautions necessary with the awareness that even if I get sick, I just do what I need to do to fight the disease. So I really don't have too much of a take on it. I just go with the flow, bro. That's how I keep my head clear of stress.
Yeah, that's a great take, actually. That's one way of going about it. And that's the safest way of going about it. But let me ask you this. Would you be in favor of schools closing down or gyms closing down again, because there's another pandemic which they're not even going to tell us what the numbers are?
No, I wouldn't be in favor of it. But if those that we've elected to be in authority say we should close down these schools, then that's what they'll do. Because my children they learn more at home than they do in a school anyway. So, however the flow goes, I just go with it. Even if they close down the gym, I just won't go down to the gym. I got a gym at my house. I still get my workouts in. So I just go with the flow, Cal. I just go with the
Mhm.
flow.
All right. I respect that. I respect that. Now, the same question goes to Bhavin. Bhavin, your opinion.
Yeah, so I have a whole different take on this. But the end point would be matching what Arthur said, but I would say it a different way. The reason I'm going to say is we all know we can't trust the government because COVID only comes when it's election year. We know this. So I would say, yes, take the precaution, which I would do as well. I would wear the mask and everything because I don't know who to trust anymore, right? Definitely, government is something I'm not going to trust. But it's not about breaking law anymore. It's more about being smart. And the reason I would say is taking a precaution is always being smart because you don't have to worry about the question, is the government trustable or not, which we already know is not trustable. But we have to take care of ourselves. So we take the precaution, which is exactly what I did last time. However, everybody should question, though, everything that the government says. And the reason is, for example, whatever the government said in the US, and then they were demonizing China for not releasing any numbers of COVID deaths. It's actually one in the same, right? Because in the US, they faked the numbers of death, while China never released the number of death. And so to me, it's like they're both equally wrong, right? US government is not any better than China government from what I've seen on how they handle COVID, right? US government also force people to take vaccinations, which I didn't take one and I don't have a job, right? So I am already impacted by this. So I would say to the public that do not trust the US government because there's no point to, because they already burned your trust. However, taking precaution is an individual thing that you should do. And to that, the example is, if you remember before COVID, if you ever traveled to Asia, right, whether it's China or Japan or something, and you always saw people wearing masks, right? The way they did that was Asian cultures are always been known for taking care of themselves from the perspective of taking care of the other person. So in other terms, whenever you saw somebody wear a mask before COVID, and we all, and of course, a lot of Americans, a lot of people laughed at it, but the idea was, for example, Japanese people, they said, hey, you know what? I caught a flu. I don't want
Yeah.
to spread it. So I'm going to put on my mask. So that way, when I sneeze, it's not spreading into the air. So they're thinking of other people, right?
Public
Before
health,
themselves.
public health. That's what they're
Yes,
thinking of. Yeah, I agree with
correct.
that.
Correct. So I would say, do you have to trust the government? No, you don't have to because they already burned your trust. But do take precaution for yourself. Don't take vaccines. Don't inject stuff in your body. But if you have to put on a mask, put on some cream, whatever. Like if you gotta put something on externally, do it. Because being smart is always the way to go. But of
Yeah.
course, being smart means not trusting the people who broke your trust either, right? So you gotta be very skeptical on all ends.
Very well put, both of you. Wow. Very, 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 very cool. Like there is no debating here. It's so perfectly put by both of you. I like it. So, next question that I've been thinking about a lot lately is, did you guys see the whole thing around them canceling the first, not the First Amendment, sorry. First Amendment it is to carry the gun?
Second
No,
Amendment.
second one's the carry gun. First one's the freedom of speech.
Freedom of speech and first amendment to carry the gun. That's what I was thinking. So now they want to cancel it in uh, Al- Albuquerque, one of those
New
places.
Mexico. It was New Mexico.
Yeah, New Mexico. So and they're declaring emergency without giving any reason for the emergency. So this kind of behavior from the government, should that be tolerated or not? And I saw somebody uh, saying that I have been through these many war zones and I know what I'm doing, and if I need to protect my family from something, then I need this. And my question is, if these people, those who are declaring an emergency, if they are so assured by their own decisions, why don't they give up the security details? Why do cops get to carry guns and we don't? When lately what we feel like is cops are not always on our side. They are good cops, there are some great cops, but I have had bad experiences. I hope you guys haven't. So I feel more threatened by a cop than a regular person at this point because they can just give me a ticket without any reason and I cannot even fight it. Every time I have tried to fight it, even when I have a good argument, the judge will not listen and I will have to. So, what are your
I've
thoughts
been
on
there.
it? Let's again, so same cycle. Arthur, you go first and then Bhavin.
All right, about this, the Albuquerque thing, this is the first time I'm hearing about that. But then you also got to keep in mind that when you say government, right, you got the United States government as a collective. We are all under the Constitution, and each state is a government in and unto themselves. Now, that constitutional amendment, they can't do away with it. Even if they tried in their state, when by the time it makes it through the appellate court up to the Supreme Court, there's not going to be any question about it. The Constitution must be upheld. So we already know we got evil actors that are trying to shift things for to their own perspective, but the Constitution is the governing law. And that's what we live by. That's what we've been living by here for these past 250 years. And that's how it's going to continue. But as far as the police and me being concerned about them, I'm not concerned about the police. The reason why I'm not concerned about the police because I know the laws of the United States government and I know the laws of the state that I live in. And I won't violate these laws. In the past, I worried about the police, but I was out there doing dirt. Now I understand and recognize who they are. I understand and recognize that they have a dangerous job, but I also know and understand that they want to go home at night. So whenever I'm in a confrontation, I always remember this one simple rule. People only reflect the energy that a conscious person displays to them. So if I encounter an authority figure and I'm emanating fear, guess what they're going to do? Their emotions are going to get hungry and they're going to want to dominate. But if I'm displaying a submissive understanding of what they're going through and articulating my perception, and my energy is not radiating conflict, if I'm getting a ticket, they're just going to give me the ticket. For real, for real. They're just going to give me the ticket and I'll move on. But I don't worry about conflict or confrontations between police and citizens, specifically this citizen, because I already know how to handle it. And plus, you got to understand, I spent over 17 years of my life locked up. And before you go to prison, you got to go through issues with the police. And I realized that all of the negative confrontations that I've had with police was a direct result of the negative energy that I emanated or the projection of fear. Because if you know someone's a beast, and you got to have a beast mentality in order to do something of that nature, you don't feed them what they want to eat. You let them know, hey, I'm complying with the laws that govern you. And if I know the laws that govern you, I can interact and deal with you. I ain't trying to sound funny, but that's just my
Yeah,
perspective on it, pal.
I completely agreed, and that has been my experience too. But let's say it's a hypothetical at this point that the other party is actually targeting, or a lot of people have said that
So,
I was
Kalki,
normal. They
Kalki,
made
let me
me.
interject. Let me interject here because what I'm gonna say might help Arthur out understand. Because I also went through something you just said about like the law system. So, let me give him, my story so that way it's gonna help both of you out. But first, let me address your first question about that New Mexico. So I was lucky to find that video yesterday on Facebook. It was like a 3 minute clip where I saw the governor of New Mexico. And again, this is because Arthur didn't hear this, right? So the clip was basically the governor of New Mexico saying, hey, you know, because of all these issues going on in the world or in the US, right, where people are, they should not have the First Amendment and the Second Amendment. So that way, she's like, I'm trying to solve a problem, at least in the state of Mexico, by taking away this First and Second Amendment. And she called that the solution. And I completely disagree with her because one of her statement was, I'm trying to solve something. And I think the reporter who was asking the question was saying, well, how are you solving it, right? So my comment on that is I would tell her if I was in front of her, I would say, look, you are not solving a problem because you are the problem, right? And I think what Arthur said is exactly what it is. You cannot reverse the country's law, like the country that your state resides in. You cannot take away any higher laws to say you're solving a problem. So to me, for that New Mexico thing, yeah, it's completely BS because you can't tell somebody saying, hey, the only way you can pass the 12th grade is you gotta fail all the 1 to 10. Or if you fail them, I'm gonna go correct the grade sheet and then declare you pass. That's what this is. So the New Mexico governor is wrong by trying to remove Constitution or remove the First and Second Amendment or remove any more amendments in the future just to say that I did something for my state. Now, going back to yours, the other part of it, the police and all these things. Again, I agree with Arthur. Everything he said. I don't usually cause issues. I don't even encounter the police. I have encountered good police, right? And like maybe a police fair or even neighborhoods and things like that. Sometimes when the police try to come after me for certain things that they had misunderstanding on, right? When somebody would call the 911 or whatever, I would explain them, and basically when you talk nicely, like not getting angry and stuff, and just explain your part of the story, it kind of solves the situation right away, right? Because as long as you're not like doing things to run away from them or you know give them a reason to come after you, right? But if somebody send them after you, you just have your part of the story and explain them and saying, can you explain me why am I still in trouble? And most of the time that again I resolve this situation. But now, for example, one time, or actually two or three times, I got a speeding ticket, for example, right? And I did go to the court. Now, this is my story, right? What I got was basically a racist judge, in other words, right? So what happened was I went to the court. Actually, this was Arizona, actually. This is like 10 years ago. And I said, hey, I didn't break any rules, right? I even took a copy of the rule that I printed out from the rules of Arizona. So, like the
Mm.
rule that they cited me on, I took that verbatim word for word as a paper copy. And so then I try to question, the court system. I mean, I'm trying to defend myself first. And then the judge says, well, blah, blah, I understand, blah, 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 but you're still going to pay for the fines, which was like 300 some dollars back then. Like this is 13 years ago. So I said, well, what is the law? So then I kind of got pissed off, but I'm not going to show the piss off part of me. So in a nice, calm tone, I said, well, what is the law? And the judge could not recite it. So then I recited for him. I said, well, let me just read the law out loud for you on from the website, from the government website. So I read it out. And I think it could be that or not. It doesn't matter, right? The thing is, the judge should not be doing what he did next, which is basically he then says, okay, Mr. Patel, I agree. You are right. But even then, he still says, well, I'm still going to make you pay for this, right? And that was the whole idea, right? So that is racism at its best. And now that could be fueled by, the judge basically getting slapped by me, like, I mean, in terms of like what the law is, right? Or that I knew what I was doing and that I was fighting the right fight. And he even acknowledged that I was right. So that I've experienced that. So now that kind of stuff, right? Uh, it doesn't explain what Arthur said, but yeah, that stuff happens. If that happens again and again, correct, we are technically helpless, right? Unless we become the judge and then, of course, correct the situation, or I may have to become, run for an office, maybe become a governor, and then correct action. But you're right, at the level we are at the people level, even though we're coming in through as peaceful, I have encountered that on at least two different occasions where the judge was racist.
Oh, dude, it's worse for me. So let me tell you my side of it. I did the same thing you did, right? And the judge blatantly said, I don't care. You can go appeal it. And the stenographer there, she looked at me in complete surprise because he is saying you will pay. There is no other option. And I don't care. You can go fight this case, but you're gonna pay fine. And the second time I actually asked for help and the judge actually reduced it for me. But I also asked the racist cop gets at least disciplined because he had so many cases on him that he couldn't even appear for the hearing. His friend had to come. He was a well known user of power and there was not a single thing.
So for that one, let me give you another example then. So if before Arizona, I used to live in Carolinas, and this is what the reason I'm giving you this is because certain things you're gonna have to leave it to God, right? So this story I'm gonna tell you was the first time I ever got pulled over, right? This is like 2007 or so in North Carolina, where I used to live there. This cop literally would. There was a new rule coming out, which was basically move over, right? When there's an emergency car on the side of the road, you gotta move over, change your lane. Doesn't matter, just change your lane, right? This rule was not a rule yet. So they were still promoting like through flyers, right? So anyway, this guy sitting on like 20 feet in, off the road in the grass, no lights on, nothing. He's just chilling, right? He didn't pull anybody over. He's just chilling. So I did not change my lane because I'm at least 20 feet away, when I'm passing by him, right? So then he pulls me over. And then, of course, I had other people in my car and we're all like shocked. And then I asked, okay, what did I do, right? It's the first time I'm getting pulled over. So he goes like, well, there's a new law that is about to be passed in like 3 months from now. And so that's what you're going to get a citation on. I'm like, wait, it's not a rule yet because you just said it's not going to be passed for 3 more months. Anyway, then I said, I need more information. He gave me a flyer, right? Now here's what happens. I'm still reading the flyer because I'm like, this is complete BS, right? So I'm still reading the flyer. I didn't move. He pulls out the car behind me, pulls off somebody else 50 feet in front of me. I'm still reading the flyer. 5 minutes later, he gets a ticket, or he or she, whoever's in the car. He pulls out, gives somebody else a ticket like 200 feet ahead of me. So I'm like, and he gave at least 4 tickets, including me, within that 15-minute gap that I didn't move after I got the flyer and all the ticket, right? So I go to the DA, right? 2-3 weeks later, again, I had to drive like hour and a half or whatever to get to the DA. I went there. Now I was the second one to talk to the DA, and of course we talk publicly, right? So everyone hears what you're saying. So of course I requested, it's like it's not my fault, all these things. So the DA waived the ticket, right? He's like, okay, well, I'm gonna waive the whole ticket. So again, because we did the good, we didn't get angry and all these things, right? So he waived the ticket, but then this is what he says. He says, why with these new rules coming out? I said, yeah, I got it from the flyer that it's a safety of the officers who are on an emergency scene so that people don't run them over. He goes like, yeah, that's why this law is coming out. And then he goes like, what happened to the cop who gave you the ticket? And I'm like, no, I don't know what happened, because how would I know what happened? And he says, well, somebody ran him over. So the
Wow.
moral, right, the moral of the story is sometimes you can't do something, you're not gonna do something. It's okay, you gotta let it go and leave it to the God, right? So he basically was abusing, right, this authority power. And again, this is not a racist case; it's just abusing the authority power, right? But he paid for it. Apparently, somebody ran him over. Now, did they ran him over because of this, or was it an accident? We don't know. I don't know. But everybody in the DA's office at that time who were gonna talk to the DA after me, they all started clapping. So I don't even know how many people of them, had the same situation they came from. But the moral of the story is, whatever happened with you, yeah, if it's out of your control, that's fine. You gotta move on, and the nature will take care of it.
Right. Arthur?
Well, first, Kalki, that judge that you went to see, he gave you your option. He told you you can appeal it. You don't have to pay fines or restitution until you have exhausted the appellate process. Now, he may have or may not have been racist, but something you need to take into consideration. This country is founded on racism, bro. It was founded on it. For real.
Yeah.
For over 400 and some odd years, my ancestors tilled the soil of this land, picking cotton, doing other things. And racism, understand this, the Civil Rights Bill, it was signed in my lifetime, bro. I'm 59 years old. I remember the riots from 68 when Martin Luther King got killed. I remember the crack epidemic and the gun epidemic in the inner cities. And I also know my history. I'm not too well versed or familiar with others' history, but my history is the country. So, rate everyone that you encounter, especially when they are in the power structure circle, bro, they racist. Many people of other nationalities that come over to this country, they are racist. So, with that awareness, if you're interacting or dealing with someone that you have to deal with who you know is racist, then you have to act accordingly. But there's one thing that makes everything in common, and you probably gonna have to fight for a while for it. Is going through the judicial system, bro. For real. And if you use in Arizona, Arizona is an extreme red state. But whenever they're attempting to implement stuff on a street or commuter or pedestrian level, that's what they do. They go out and they start handing out tickets. They have to make ticket quotas for real, because the tickets they pay for stuff in the cities. And when we get caught up in it, even if we feel we weren't doing the wrong thing, we should just appeal it. Go through the entire process. You don't have to pay a lawyer. You could do it pro se. But understand, bro, that as long as you're on this planet, you're going to be dealing with racists. And it's how you consciously deal with them that determines the outcome that's going to occur. Everyone would like to live in a utopian society. But if you study any of the scrolls or any of the scriptures, you understand that utopian society, it's not going to exist. We are in a fucking arena. We're here to learn the
Right.
rules, fight, manifest the power of God in this realm of existence, and realize that we live in a counterpoint universe. You have to perceive good and you have to perceive evil, but both of them are one and the same, and we have to operate
But
accordingly.
so I understand your point. My question is, we cannot be the only people, those who understand all this and still want to do the right thing.
Bro,
So when people get in
uh,
authority, when they
uh,
accumulate all this power, where are our people, those who want to do the right thing, and why they are not fighting back?
listen at this, right? Think about where you at, bro. You stranded on a rock, spinning in the middle of space. You can't even touch another person here. And everyone and everything that you encounter, they're riding solo. It's incumbent upon the parents to instill within the offspring the knowledge that is required to maneuver through this realm of existence. Everybody knows. Everybody knows. And everybody has to fight their own individual battle. Now, we can come together as a collective, establish a fucking mastermind, and accrue power. But for the vast majority of the people that are on this planet, you're alone, bro. And you got to do what you know how to do to maneuver through where you're going. It's going to always be racist here. It's going to always be evil people here. It's going to always be death here. But it's also going to always be beauty, joy, peacefulness. It's the individual's decision and their willingness to get comfortable with being uncomfortable to acquire the information to help them row their boat down this fucked up shit filled stream that we in, man.
Yeah, I understand. I kind of agree. I just try to navigate it differently, and it frustrates me because I feel most of the time helpless. And it's not helpless because I am not willing to do something. It's because I don't have enough people to work with me to do something, you know? And Bhavin, the same question to you. How do you feel about it?
How do I feel about what?
So, what I'm saying is,
So
I
the
completely
question.
agree with what Arthur is saying, that we have to make the best of what we have in front of us and try to make changes. But we are at a point where bad actors in our society have become too powerful. And even if people are willing to fight the good fight, they usually feel alone. That's why the change is not happening at the rate it should be happening.
But when you
So,
fight the good
So,
fight, you're gonna always be alone. You're gonna
right.
always be alone when you fight the good fight. For real. You're gonna
yeah.
always
So
be alone. Here's the thing though.
I think I understand.
So,
Go ahead.
my
Continue.
question
Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead. I apologize.
No, no, no. I'm actually, since you said it, so that triggered something. My question actually is why the other side is more organized than us? Because they are not alone. They can
It's
freaking get
not.
together, but
I
why
would say
can't
it's not.
we get together?
Sure. I think I know your kind of question. So why is the other side getting what they want to do? The bad people, and they always seem like they're succeeding. That's what your question is, right? Um,
Right.
the answer, yeah, the answer is within the theory of uh, divide and conquer, right? So or keep in the dark, right? So what's happening is the other side, who's in power, right? It's easy for them to trickle down their agenda to other minions who are in power, right? And the number one agenda, see, when you want to do something bad and you want to succeed, is to keep the opposition separate and in the dark, right? So the missing, like we live in an era of misinformation, right? We already know this. Like for example, this squash with the COVID thing, right? That's a misinformation because they've never been honest from the beginning. They never said, "Hey, this is not They could have said, "Oh, this is not a big thing. This is not a small thing. Whatever it is, just be honest with it." But they've never been honest. So they always try to spread the confusion, and with confusion comes chaos. And they're trying to spread the fear of that they cannot trust anybody. So early in the call, I said clearly, definitely you cannot trust the government, but I never said don't trust your neighbors, don't trust your friend circle, right? Because that's where you're gonna get the information out of. So, or okay, it's like for example, 3 years ago, I used to say I have more trust in the nature because I know the nature will not kill me overnight from any disease, and therefore the vaccine can. That's why I didn't take a vaccine, right? Because I know the vaccine takes 15 years to make. They didn't do that. They were also lying on many fronts, so that's why I didn't trust them, right? But overall, I never inject anything in my body. I don't even take Advil or Tylenol. So my health was 100% bulletproof. So if I'm not taking a flu shot in the past, I'm not taking a vaccine. That was my reason for not taking a vaccine because I knew how strong my immune system is, and I don't want to jeopardize it. But to your question is, you divide people, you cause chaos, you cause confusion. They don't trust each other anymore, and so you separate the people. Once you separate the people, when Arthur said it comes true is basically you are now by yourself, while they could be a team of 100 people, or in this case, the government is a team of, let's say, few thousand people, right? The bad actors. And so they are doing this everywhere in the world. It's not just US, but everywhere in the world. And through chaos and confusion, they keep you alone, right? They keep you individuals. Now, what happens is the grain of time kicks in. What is the grain of time? Is basically time circles in a circular motion, right? So, for example, now I'll give example first. Example is if you are a successful parent, right? Like you make a lot of money, let's say you and your wife, and then you have a kid. That kid is going to be most likely has a higher chance of screwing up their life, and then they're gonna go through hardship. Now, let's say your son grows up and they went through hardship, and now they understand the value of life, right? The hardship, how to gather money, how to save money, how to live a life. Then their son, he's gonna pass on the good knowledge to their son on all the hard work, and so on. It just goes in an up and down wave. So what happens is right now we are all individualized. Everybody's they're trying to split everybody apart. So you don't talk to anybody, right? They're trying to isolate everybody. That's how they're succeeding. It's not that they're succeeding that they have more power. It's just that they are unified on their end and they're dividing people on the other end. And so what happens is you got tired of it, I got tired of it. Now people are getting tired of it. So the time comes around where people will defy them, right? They're gonna defy and they're gonna say, okay, now I'm gonna talk to other people. I'm not gonna trust the government. That's where we're getting at. And in the next year or the year after or whatever, people are going to come into places like, I think another word, this happens in military called militia, right? In the public is called basically coming up with a lot of new groups. And that's where people are going to start binding with each other with disrespect for the government, right? Well, I would say disrespect, I would say like distrust with the government. And like, for example, if they're going to pass a COVID vaccine this time, people already know what happened 3 years ago, right? Most people this time will not take it because they're gonna just fight back and say, you know what, whatever happens, happens. I'm not taking it, right? But 3 years ago, that was not the case. So as people learn, time will bring them together, right?
Right.
Again, this happens on a grander scale.
So I don't know if you're hearing this, but I'm pretty sure Arthur can tell this. So when you were speaking in the middle, your voice changed completely and it became robotic. And when Arthur was speaking, the same thing happened to him too. And I'm hearing both of you. And I'm like, who is listening to our conversation? It's just
You
three
already
of
know
us.
the
We don't.
conversation is being listened to. You already know it's being listened to. But let me ask both of y'all this question.
Right.
This stuff that y'all talking about, right? The racism, the divide and conquer, all of this. How long has this been going on?
For centuries.
Bro,
Ever
since the
since we
beginning of
organized.
time, bro. Since
Yeah.
since we evolved into the species that we are, or when we was left here on this planet, because we got two theories. We got the creationist theory, and we also have the evolutionist theory. Whichever one of them you want to go by, you could go by it. But this has been
Hmm.
going on since we've been on the planet. It is on the individual. You're going to always have bad, you're going to always have good. It's an individualistic choice which side you're going to be on, and it's an individual choice whether or not you're going to be a slave to it. See, most people choose to be a slave to it because they're happier in their sleep.
Yeah,
Give me
it's
three
easy. Yep.
meals. Yeah, happier in their sleep. Then some people become conscious and they want to struggle against it. They want to fight, so they align themselves with groups that are doing the fight for the cause that they believe in. It's not the government per se. It's the law of the land on the planet, man. For real.
Yeah,
And you
yeah,
got to
yeah.
remember this in relation to the cop issue. Power corrupts. We already know that. That's an age old adage. But absolute power, it corrupts absolute. And those that are corrupted by their power, eventually they're going to be found out. And if we get caught up in the mix, because I know I was one of those that got caught up in the mix and had to pay a heavy penalty for it. However, now I am removed from that process. I have no shackles on my neck. I am not beholden to anyone, but I do follow the principles, rules, and laws that govern the planet and the country that I live in. So this shit been going on since the beginning of time, man. And ain't nothing gonna
Completely
stop
agree.
it because it's how it's meant to go. It's how it's
Yeah.
meant to be. Until the time that the sky crack, depending on what your belief system is, until the time this joint come to an end, that's what's going to be here because it's a natural part. This whole planet ain't nothing but a giant cell, and we ain't nothing but fucking molecules within the cells. That's all.
Yeah.
That's all it is. So the good, evil, that clash is going to continue to go. But the thing is, what is your decision? What you going to do about it? What battles are you choosing to fight? And then you begin to fight those battles, and you're going to come in contact with people that are fighting the same battle, and then you begin to walk with them. But eventually, guess what? You, me, and every fucking body on this planet, whether they fighting a good fight or they fighting a bad fight, they got to walk through the portal of death. And when they get on the other side of this thing, then see what happens over there. But as far as right here, this shit's going to always occur. So it is incumbent upon us to do what we need to do to help wake people up in our immediate environment. And as you guys are doing with this, with the broadcast, trying to get your perceptions out there. But first and foremost, you got to remember, just like those Japanese people that was wearing a mask, and ask yourself the question: am I doing it for the public health, or am I doing it for my personal health and my personal gain and my personal fulfillment to my pride and ego? You follow me? Because so it's gonna be
Yeah.
here. Now
Yeah.
the thing is what you gonna do? How you gonna go about making some stuff happen to help remedy, rectify, or change the laws as well as the bad actors, if that's what you want to call them, that are in the police department, the fire department, in the fucking healthcare industry, and everywhere else. Because if you want to take it to a longer route, with this COVID shit, think about this. We lost a whole generation of senior citizens.
Oh
We
yeah.
lost so much wisdom in one fell swoop. I don't think
Mhm.
that much wisdom has been swept off the planet that fast in one fell swoop. And then, on the same token, with our elderly and the homes that people choose to put their elderly parents and grandparents in, they're getting abused in there. So this bad versus good thing, it is pervasive. But the thing is, what are you going to do? What am I going to do? And then getting up every day and doing that shit. Excuse me for
Yeah.
my mouth.
No, no, that's exactly the point, and you have put it together so well. And we don't script this shit. Like this is what our audience, although we don't have any at the moment, but when do they listen, they have to understand this is coming from genuine hearts, those who
Okay.
actually care about you, and we are trying to find a way to help all of you.
Mm,
Because the only way we can help you is by making you understand we have been where you are, and we are no different, but we just want to do the right thing, and you can make that decision too, as Arthur and Bhavin both said. So I'm going to pivot this conversation into a different direction. Last podcast I had with Jane Fidelman, Findelman. So she
mm,
is a psychologist, a marriage counselor, a grief counselor, and a lot of other things. And the topic was very serious. And we wanted to cover different perspectives about a sexual assault or some aggressive behavior like that. So we covered it in different ways, like, okay, why is it always men? Why men are triggered so easily? How to have a bigger sexual gratification, you know? But in the end, the most beautiful thing that came out of that conversation, because she actually shared her personal experience. She said, when it happened to me, I always felt like I was responsible because I let this happen to me. And once I got over that hurdle in my life, I learned how to help a lot of other people. This experience actually spiritually lifted me up. And the reason I'm mentioning this is because I think the change that is about to come, all the oppression that is happening to us, it's gonna lift us all together spiritually. And finally, we will have that moment where people will come together and good will start prevailing again. So, I want both of your opinions on both the topics. Number one is what I just said. Like, I think this whole change, they think they're going to dominate us, but eventually it's going to backfire. And number two, how male ego causes things like sexual assault. And are we responsible for it all the time, or are we getting triggered incorrectly, or are we getting programmed incorrectly or raised incorrectly? It has to be a combination of all of them and a lot more things. And that's what I want to understand from both of you. So again, I think Arthur went last, so now it's Bhavin's turn. So Bhavin, you can go ahead.
Okay, so the first question was about sorry, I have a short memory right now. What was the
So
first question?
two things. Number one, let's talk about sexual assault and what, from male perspective, you think about it. And the reason I mentioned it because it's an arch is the experience of this person that uplifted her after all this oppression to actually finally do good for others spiritually. And I think that's what's happening to us as a society. And that's what I want your opinion on. So two separate questions.
Gotcha. Okay, so the first question, so yeah, basically the experience that you're gonna have, it is gonna be unique to only you. And um, I always say the phrase, right? Everything that happens to you is always good in the end. So obviously, in a short-term frame, yes, some of the experience that we have are bad. Obviously, it can scar you, it can rob you, it can cause you pain, but there's always something to learn from it, right? So in the longer scale, it's always a growing experience, right? Where you learn not just a little bit, but you learn a lot about and the deeper the experience, right? The more you're gonna analyze, the more you're gonna spin it in your head, right? From a pain point or maybe even from any other point, right? But basically, it is there. It's your journey you learn from, and the deeper it scorches in your head, the more you're going to use of it. And that also pours out to the other people, like the people then who will interact with you going forward. You make it a mission. Sometimes some people make it a mission. Even if you don't make it a mission, you're always going to help out other people avoid those situations. So, eh, is the victim always responsible, or is the victimizer responsible? I think that depends on the situation. But yes, I always also, there's another phrase I always say: when you clap, you need two hands, right? So there's always an energy flow that happens. You sometimes feel that you're not responsible for something, but you could have triggered it. And at the same time, the other person who's victimizing you, going through the same experience. So yes, it is. Um, it is like clapping with two hands, right? It's not one hand clapping and the other one is just listening there. So that's the answer to the first question. It is an experience basically, and there's always something to learn from it, and there's always something to pass on to others.
Okay.
And your second question, I have no comment. So we can move to Arthur.
Right, Arthur.
All right. What was the second question?
So the first question was
No, the
about.
second question. I said the second question.
So it was like a segue. So basically, from first question, what I understood is when you're oppressed, when you think so heartbreaking, traumatic, it actually uplifts you as uh, spiritually to do things that you would not have done otherwise. And I think that is what is happening right now. So that's my second question. Do you think in the end it could backfire on all these bad actors and we will unite and spiritually become better beings in general than keep perpetuating this cycle of pain?
All right. And what bad actors are you referring to?
All it's accumulation of so many, whether it's basically people those who don't care about other and they only care about their ego and they only care about their greed. Those are, in my opinion, the biggest bad actors.
Okay. Okay. I hear exactly what you're saying. But now, one, take this into consideration. I'm in my car, so if you hear my ear, I apologize, but I'm on my way to work. Um, as far as the bad actors are concerned, everybody's going to get what they deserve. They're going to get what is coming to them. But what you don't seem to understand is that hurt people hurt people. And anyone that hurts, can y'all still hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. Anyone that does something of that nature to another person, it has to be something psychologically and emotionally wrong. Virtually everyone exists in a world of pain here, man. So, as far as the bad actors getting what they deserve, they probably already got what they deserve because they got to live with themselves. When you do harm to people, you got to live with yourself. And unless you completely off the motherfucking deep end where they got to Thorazine you up, you feel that. You go through that in your head when you do stuff to hurt other people. So they're going to get what they deserve. And as far as those statistics are concerned, I think you should go check that because it's virtually this. More men suffer from sexual assault than women do. They just don't report it. More men suffer from spousal abuse than women do. They just don't report it. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, I am on point with that too. Yes, I completely agree. And there is a lot bigger conversation that needs to happen around that. That has to be an episode completely in itself. Because we don't get to talk about our pain, our abuse in that space. And you can always ask if you're a good person, you will be always out to make it. What I'm trying to say. So yes, we will have that conversation. Uh, but I would give both of you 30 seconds to wrap up your, I would say, this session, your sign off our show for the day. So that's what to do. So
That,
Arthur, you can go.
that last part was kind of muzzled to me, Cal.
Oh, so I was just saying 30 seconds sign off before we close the show because I have to head to work.
Oh, well, there's not much that I have to say. I thank you guys for inviting me. I appreciate having a conversation with you, but we must all keep in mind that we are all free will moral agents. And when you take those words and you go research them, you're going to find that's some deep shit. We are free. We have a free will to be the agents of whatever morals we decide to submit ourselves to. And if you're going to fight, you got to realize that it's going to be a lot of pain, a lot of discomfort, and a lot of hurt. But eventually, you'll band with people that are walking in your direction. And as long as you're living true to your principles, it's going to be all right. That's all I got to say.
And you could not have said it better. And wow. Yeah, exactly. Heavy stuff. Bhavin.
Yeah, all I'm gonna say is basically whatever comes next, look at the past, right? Question everything, right? So basically, if a COVID comes again, they tell you to take a shot. Think about it, right?
Hello?
Because there is no better doctor than yourself. There is no better thinker than yourself. So only you can protect yourself. So question everything. If somebody says to do something, you always should question and find out, is it even going to help you or hurt you? Because if it hurts you, you don't have to do it. If it helps you, go ahead and do it. But always remember to question and take care of yourself.
I respect that too. So here we have it, ladies and gentlemen, and my lovers. Well, you have to understand from my perspective, this whole experience is changing me. Talking to these two people is actually changing me because it is giving me more than I actually understood so far. You know, I have my own preconceived notions and I do abide by them. I do abide to my own morality. And I am trying to get you all to understand that we the people, whether it comes to this city, to this nation, to this world, we have to come together for our own benefit because I don't think the other side, which I am talking about constantly, understands what they are doing to us, what they are doing to themselves. Eventually, they might win, but they will lose on a bigger scale because the joy and happiness they are chasing constantly, it's never going to come to them and they're going to damage this world beyond repair. And then they will be the one left alone to deal with that bullshit. With that, I close this show because since you can be with us or you can be against us, and if you're against us, then go fuck yourself and let us fucking peace. I want to thank you, Arthur. I want to thank you, Pavin, for your precious time. This is Kalki Kara, closing Rebels United, Chapter 5. Thank you, everybody. Have a great day.
Great day.